So, we're going to be talking about attraction here and how that actually works and what that looks like for male versus female. Because the way that women move through their attraction, levels of attraction, is different from the way that men move through their levels. Women are kind of wired up from north to south, whereas men are wired up south to north. And let me explain what I mean by this. So there's three levels of attraction: the mental attraction, the heart attraction, and the sexual attraction down in the sexual centers, right? So women are obviously wired from north to south, meaning they start with a mental attraction. They're mentally intrigued. They have some sort of mental pull towards a man that has started in his sexual centers down south, because testosterone is the driving force that motivates a man to pursue after a woman. And it's this strong sexual pull to go after a woman and try to pursue her romantically and sexually, right? Because the most instinctual part of the male brain is to win the mating game and get his DNA into the next generation. So subconsciously, what is happening in the male brain is testosterone is kind of motivating and pulling him to pursue after this woman that he finds to be very aesthetically attractive. And of course, there is evolutionary factors that play into this as well. Eyes, clear skin, rosy red cheeks, full lips. There is energy at play here. There is hormonal pheromones, right? Biologically, there's a biological attraction. And all of these more primitive factors in attraction are coupled with our psychological our psychological criteria for what we find to be attractive, right? Based on our childhood, our patterns, our love blocks, and what is actually familiar to our brains. Because we as human beings are wired to survive and to procreate. And this can get a little bit confusing here because there's so many things at play when it comes to attraction, but we always have to bring it back to the primitive instinct of us as human beings. And so, as far as appearance, I mean, obviously, beauty standards vary from culture to culture, and there's a bunch of beauty standards out there that can kind of have an effect on the way that we pick and choose our partners, right? But all in all, it comes back to the primitive instinct of finding a mate that is has scar-free, smooth skin, clear eyes, more rosy red cheeks, has a good fit figure, especially when it comes to the male brain in deciding a good woman, because this is all signs of healthy reproductive fitness. This is why it's pretty much always guaranteed that very young, fit, fertile women with happy, healthy, high hormones are always going to have male energy coming towards them, because that is signals of a healthy reproductive fitness, right? So that's what the brain is wired to seek out. So for a male brain that is seeking to get his genes into the next generation, those qualities are very, very important when he is choosing a woman to become his potential mate. So men, they obviously start in the sexual centers, then they move to the mental attraction, and then they move into the heart attraction. Whereas for women, females, we start in the mental attraction. We have this sort of curiosity, this intrigue about a man that is approaching and pursuing and coming in towards us. And then we move into the heart attraction, where we feel more love and genuine care, and we feel more of this emotional bond with a man because we're more connected to him on an emotional heart-to-heart level. And then we move into the sexual centers, where we have this more strong, magnetic sexual attraction for him. And it's important to move through these stages slowly and diligently and thoroughly. And this is why it may take a woman longer to open up sexually and to feel a sexual attraction for a guy that she has been dating and more intimate, like involved with more romantically, because women they require a lot more time. They require a lot more investment in order to feel a strong sexual attraction for a man. There's a whole lot of factors that play into that, like if he is providing resources, if he is a safe space for her to feel like she can rely on him to provide and protect her physically, financially, mentally, and of course be that emotional safe space for her to land on with him. So that cocktail of qualities are why we will feel more sexually available to a man. But hear me out. There is another side to this where it can be toxic, and all of those things they're kind of distorted, right? And they become distorted based upon your own psychological love blocks and your psychological love patterns, right? Whether you have, a history of very toxic love patterns, and you have now, that has become your normal, that is what has become what your nervous system has been kind of trained to perceive as safe and as healthy, when in reality it is actually detrimental to you in every way, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and hormonally too. So basically, if the nervous system is not healed, if it is dysregulated, if there's a bunch of love blocks and pent up tension in there, then you are likely to experience more toxic love patterns, and what you perceive currently as your normal and as your safe is not actually what is considered to be normal and safe. And so you kind of have to go through this healing process where you relearn and untrain your previous love patterns and love blocks in order to open yourself up to receive new, abundant, actually healthy, and actually safe love experiences. For example, if your father growing up was very wishy-washy, he was very unavailable, emotionally unavailable, maybe he was very distant in space, or maybe he was distant very emotionally, right? Maybe he was, in your life for 1 week, and then he was gone for 2 months at a time, and he was just kind of hot and cold with you. Well, those patterns become your normal, and your nervous system starts to perceive that as your normal and as what is safe to you. And so then you continue on in your life, inevitably attracting those types of men, those same kinds of emotionally unavailable, very distant, hot and cold men and relationships into your life, because that is what you have, that's what has become your normal and what your nervous system has been regulated to. But on the other hand, if you had a father who was very present, he always provided for you, he always made sure that you were taken care of, you felt very safe to emotionally open up to him. He was very good at communicating and being open, with you, as his child. He was very present. He had a pretty good relationship with mother, whether they were separated or not, but he has a very healthy sense of self and self-esteem, and is very grounded in his manhood. If you had all of this, you had this father that always made sure you were provided for, then you will go on to attract those same kinds of men that also reflect and mirror the same relationship that you had with your father, which is great. That's what we want to do here, right? We want to recreate these healthy patterns of love. And when you do your inner healing, even if you are someone who doesn't come from that healthy family dynamic and having a healthy relationship with your parents, even if you still don't today have a good, stable, healthy relationship with your parents, you can heal from all of that and all of those blocks and all of those toxic situations and patterns and choose a better outcome, right? You can create new love patterns for yourself and attract those healthy, grounded, masculine men. instead of the bad ones, right? And I'm living proof of that. I'm living proof of that because I, just to kind of give you some relatability here, is I, had my parents were divorced, and I had a very estranged relationship with my father. There was a lot of toxicity between mom and dad when they were going through divorce, a lot of family issues, a lot of tension in the family, fighting. It could have been way worse. I'll give it that. Absolutely could have been way worse, but it also could have been a lot better. So anyways, I had that situation, very estranged relationship with my father, and I have healed all of that. I have matured out of all of those things and decided that I wanted to change my narrative, change my story of life, and go on to attract a healthy man who was completely opposite of what the story and narrative that I had created with my father, right? And that's all it requires, is just some self-awareness and mindfulness, and the motivation to want more and to want to change your love story, okay? Next up, another way that we choose partners is through our ears. So scientifically, men prefer women with a higher pitched voice and a smaller body, because those play hand in hand. And then women prefer a man with a lower pitched tone in his voice and a bigger figure, more broad shoulders, more density in the upper body. Obviously, because that signals that he is a testosterone full man, and he has upper body strength to be able to protect in case a bear tries to attack her and her family. I mean, this is built into our evolution, and whereas men need women that are smaller figure and have a very obvious accentuated curve in her hips and plump breast, and just an overall healthy figure where she has a little bit more body fat in the lower tummy, right? Now, we're not talking about extreme here, obviously, but having some sort of body fat is very healthy for feminine energy. That is where the feminine energy is held. That is our womb. That is where our feminine energy is born, okay? Quite literally, we produce life in there. And so that little bit of belly fat is a very healthy signal to a man's brain that she can reproduce successfully, that she can carry a child to term, and the child has a successful chance at life. And it is also coupled with having the plump breast, right? Because the plump breasts signal that she can nourish and feed that child. Hi, kitty cat. I swear, she has to be in every single one of my videos. She is my little sidekick. So those plump breasts obviously signal that she herself is healthy and has a healthy set of hormones, and breast full of milk, so that she can feed her child with it. It is all very, very fascinating how attraction is formed. So it is biological, hormonal, energetics, right? Because energies do play a role, because this is all psychologically of how your brain has been trained to see the masculine and feminine dynamics through your childhood, through the model of your parents. It is primitively, evolutionarily, and aesthetically and physically, all of these things coupled together create the beauty and the science of attraction. So if you happen to be struggling in the area of attraction, and maybe you're not choosing fit, masculine, testosterone fueled men, or you're struggling because the men you are choosing, maybe they look very masculine and appear very masculine and have masculine bone structure, but they're very emotionally distant, they're hot and cold, they're inconsistent. So all of those things are the reflection of you and your mindset and your patterns, which can all be healed. You can overcome all of these obstacles and begin to create the perfect idea of the man that you find to be attractive and healthiest for you and your future goals with him. This is all deeper healing work that needs to first be addressed before you even go into the world of dating, where I go into, rotational dating and how to show up as a high value woman and how to have feminine communication skills. First, you need to first establish all of these basic foundational inner healing works in order to then go on and date successfully and be that high value woman that all masculine men want to pursue and want to marry. You first have to accomplish the internal parts of it, the internal work and healing. And that can all be done through just a little bit of mindfulness and self-awareness and some motivation and drive to really change your story. I am here to help you through that journey and any questions that may come up for you throughout that in becoming a more feminine, soft, approachable, open, loving, genuine, people loving, attractive, feminine woman. And go ahead and send me an email or leave a comment down below. And also leave me suggestions, future suggestions for future videos in the comment section. Subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you guys in the next video.